don't cough on each other, wash your hands, be more hygienic. It's gonna end because we can fight it until the end.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kids Speak Out, conversations with children around the world about things that are important to them. Some a little younger, some a little bit older, and we have with us today Dr. Alexandra Correa, who's going to talk to us about some of your medical questions that you might have. We're so glad to get started, and we're talking today, of course, about the coronavirus, because there's nothing that we are not hearing more about all around the world than that particular illness that's affecting so many people. Let's see who's joining us.
Hi, my name is Lexi Sullivan. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm 8 years old.
Hi, my name is Logan Harrison. I live in Princeton, New Jersey, and I'm 13 years old.
Hi, my name is Jake Harrison. I live in New Jersey, but I'm in Florida right now, and I'm 11 years old.
Hi, my name is Hannah Harrison. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, and I'm 8 years old.
Hi, my name is Guy King. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland, and I'm 19 years old.
Hi, my name is Matthias, and I live in Florence, in Italy.
I'm Wyatt, and this is Grace, and we're in first grade, and we live in Weston, Connecticut.
My name's Isabella Heath, and I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm 8 years old.
Hi, I'm Isabel Peixoto. I live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I am 19 years old.
I'm Olivia Peixoto. I'm also in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Felipe. I live in Sao Paulo, and I am 15 years old.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm in Shanghai, China, and I'm 19 years old.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Correa. You guys can call me Dr. C. I'm an emergency room doctor in New York City.
Okay, here's a question. What do you know already about the coronavirus?
So we didn't know anything about the coronavirus, and our mom was like, she, on a random day after we went back home from school, it was a normal day, and then the next day it was not at all, because we had to start the coronavirus break because everyone knew we couldn't go back to school, and then that's how the coronavirus started getting worse and worse and worse.
When you cough or when you sneeze can travel around 6 feet, and that's why you need to stay 6 feet apart. So if someone coughs, you don't get the air.
That's right. That's an incredibly good explanation. So the way that we kind of describe the transmission of this bug is by droplets. And so when somebody sneezes or coughs, a bunch of droplets go into the air. And the size of these viral particles are 1/60th of the size of 1 grain of your hair. If you can even imagine how small that is, it's really small. So every time somebody sneezes or coughs, these particles can go into the air in these little fluid droplets and travel.
Aside from social distancing, what about wearing masks? Let's ask Dr. Correa.
If you wear a mask or you wear some kind of cloth over your nose and mouth, every time you cough or sneeze, these particles won't get very far. So even if you don't know that you're sick and you could potentially be holding on to the virus, by wearing a mask, you're really protecting everybody else around you from potentially getting sick from those droplets that come out of your mouth. One thing that's really, really important to know about wearing a mask, this is a surgical mask. It goes behind your ears like this. Once you have this on, everything that's on the outside of this mask becomes potentially dirty. A virus can get on here. And so when you take it off, it's really important to take it off from behind your ears. Don't put your hand on the mask, because as soon as you do, your hand now has the virus on it potentially, okay?
I've been seeing a lot on Instagram. A lot of people are making their own masks or sort of makeshift masks. Mm-hmm. Is anything sort of that you can cover your mouth with safe, or does it have to be a particular like grade or a particular material, or in general just like a bandana, or if you're making your own mask at home, is that just as good as a surgical mask or not?
Very, very good question. So I think that, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news or listening to the radio. There have been a lot of conversations about what's called PPE for health workers. That stands for personal protective equipment. In the hospital, because on a regular basis, we're exposed to a lot of these aerosolized, fluid particles with the virus in them. It's very important that we have a mask that not only filters more small material, but that also has like a very tight seal on our faces. Nothing that we make at home, even a surgical mask, is going to have a super tight seal, but it is, as I discussed, going to help with spreading the particle and getting a direct particle from somebody else's mouth. With regards to what you can use at home, truly anything cloth that can catch your spit or your snot when you sneeze or cough. Even though you do have something in front of your face, you need to remember that every time you sneeze, you should sneeze into your arm. Don't just sneeze into the cloth. There's a chance that stuff can just kind of get pressurized out of there. But bandanas will work well. Ski masks that don't have a hole will work well. A scarf can work well. But it is important to remember that they're not completely foolproof. So you still need to stay 6 feet away from people.
No, I had a question for Dr. C. So my grandma has been social distancing for, I'd say, a month and a half here in Brazil. And so has my dad, but he wants to go isolate himself with her. Can you talk about the potential risks of that?
Right. So I think, we've touched upon how this virus can spread very easily. It's super small and it can be sneezed or coughed out into somebody's face. So one of the things that we have to remember when we're either social distancing by ourselves or with our families is that even though we try really hard to social distance, we're still going to the pharmacy, we're still going to the grocery store, we're still going outside, sometimes touching a bench when we sit on it. Every time we potentially infect ourselves, that's somebody else that we could potentially infect. So unless somebody's in true isolation, not going outside, not seeing anybody else, it's kind of a risk to join a new group or to see your mother if you haven't seen them in a few months.
So what about you, Matthias? Have you been able to visit with other family members outside your home?
I've just seen my mom and my 2 brothers and my dad.
What about all your cousins? Don't you have some cousins and a grandmother?
I have a grandmother and grandfather in Colombia, and some cousins in the U.S.
So Matthias, what's it like being in the house all the time and not getting together with family who live outside and friends?
It's not so nice because I can only see the people that are like my mom and dad and brothers. I can't see anyone else.
Rachel, tell us about what's going on in China right now with the virus that is scaring people all over the world.
China is probably the furthest along in the virus because it was hit the first. So right now the virus has pretty much been under control. A lot of schools are starting up again, and the city looks pretty normal. I went on a walk today. I've been running outside, but people are still really cautious about it because they're scared that it's going to come back.
A lot of kids are asking, what's the difference between the flu and the coronavirus?
That's a really, really good question. And I kind of want to, before I get into it, ask people what they know about the flu versus coronavirus. Can anybody give me some differences? On average, somebody with the flu infects about 1 to 1.5 other people. And corona is 2. So if you remember from taking your math classes what it means to be to the something power, whereas, the number that each flu person infects is quite low compared to that COVID infects. Hannah, you had your hand up. Did you have a question or a fact to tell us about the difference between the flu and coronavirus?
The coronavirus is more contagious.
Yeah, for sure. I think you and Isabella have a very similar point. It's more likely to infect more people per person that has it. Anything else?
What if you saw someone, like, had coronavirus, and like if they like now they were like healthy, but will they still spread the virus?
That's a question that, you know, a lot of people are asking, and such a good one and such an important one. You know, what we are coming to understand about this virus and what the Center for Disease Control and the National Institute of Health is kind of telling people at this point is that from when you come into contact with somebody that's sick, you can get sick for up to 14 days. So even if you are exposed but aren't quite sick with a fever or cough yet, you can be shedding viral particles and making other people sick for up to 14 days. What we're saying about somebody that has been sick, so let's say that today you develop a fever, which by the way is 38 degrees Celsius or 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a fever. So a temperature of 99.9 is not a fever, okay? So let's say that today you develop a fever, a cough, body aches. What we're telling people, especially that work in healthcare, is that from the time that you have your first symptoms, you need to be away from other people for 7 days, okay? So I know it's kind of confusing because we have two things there. We have one, on one hand, you need to isolate for 14 days from exposure to a person, because the incubation period, which is the period that it takes the virus to actually make somebody sick, can be quite long with this. That's another difference from this and the flu. With the flu, if you see your cousin that has the flu today, if you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick within 48 hours or 2 days. So once you get to the 2-day point, you know you're not gonna get anyone else sick, but that's super different with Corona. It can happen up to 14 days. So what you're asking is, can somebody still get sick, you know, maybe after they've had the virus? And this is something that we are still trying to understand, but as of right now, we think that once you've had symptoms for 7 days, you're no longer contagious to other people. Another question that a lot of people have asked is, once somebody has had this, can they get it again? And what we think is that you're unlikely to get the exact same course of the disease again, but we aren't sure if our body makes an adequate amount of you know, fighter cells to fight this off a second time. But we are getting research done on that right now. If anybody's heard of the antibody research that's going on right now, we're testing people's blood who have had this already and seeing what kind of immune response they mount. Very good question. Thank you for asking that.
Any more questions, guys? Anybody?
I think Hannah has a question.
Okay.
If you once you find a vaccine for the coronavirus, will you have to get it? Like, will it be like you have to get it every year to prevent you from getting it if you find a vaccine?
Like the flu shot?
So another very good question. So the flu, we predict, we have a very, you know, kind of comfortable prediction cycle for it. It comes back every year. We kind of can guess which strains are going to come depending on which parts of the world get it first, and we can make a really good vaccine. Once we make a vaccine for this, we will definitely use it if it's available next year and the year after that, probably for at least 2 years. And we'll see how this kind of pans out. I think a lot of people are guessing that the coronavirus, after it dies down, you know, in June or July of this year, may come back in October or November next year. And that's when it would be the most useful, and then the following fall. You know, from my experience, coronaviruses don't cycle like the flu. So it might not be something that we have to give, you know, forever or predict what's coming next. But once we do have a coronavirus or COVID-19 specifically vaccine, I think, you know, everybody will get it and take it for at least the next few years. But we'll see. We'll see. Things are changing every day.
And is it COVID-19 because it was 2019 when it first started?
Yes.
Where the number comes from?
Yes.
Wow, so could it change?
O is corona, vi is virus, D is disease, and 19 is the year.
What do you think about
Dr. C, I have a question. When you get groceries from the store, when you bring them back home, what should you do with them to get all the germs off of them before you eat them or like touch them?
Very, very good question. I think one of the things that you can do with produce like apples, oranges, even things that you wouldn't normally wash like a banana, just run it under the sink for a few seconds, like at least 5 seconds. If you have a wash, let me show you what a wash looks like. If you have a fruit and veggie wash like this one or this one, you can spray them. And again, just wash it under the sink for about 5 seconds. And then anything that you were wearing when you went to the store, especially if you think somebody might have sneezed on you, take it off and just throw it straight into the laundry bin.
Good idea. I think that Matthias has his hand up. Is that Matthias?
How is the coronavirus made?
How is the coronavirus made?
Yeah.
So we're actually not completely sure how the virus came to be, but there are some really good theories.
No, I'm saying like the shape of the coronavirus.
Oh, what does it look like? Do you guys know how a virus works to begin with? Do you know, is a virus alive?
Yes.
Is it?
Maybe.
A virus is not alive. It's actually really interesting how they work. A viral particle is held inside of something that's kind of like an envelope, or a cape, if you will. It doesn't have any drive to live. It just gets put out into kind of the atmosphere and finds a way to hook onto something. But it's an envelope full of genetic material that gets put into our bodies and then kind of hijacks our own cells' machinery to reproduce genetic material. And that's when we get sick. But if you want me to show you kind of how that works, give me 1 second. I'm almost about to run out of battery. I drew a picture, and it's very rudimentary, but that's the circle is kind of the cape that a virus would be wearing, and in the inside is genetic material. That's the orange stuff. And the thing that kind of looks like a red bone that I have spike labeled next to, the way that it gets into your body cells is that it hooks up with the protein that's on your cell, and that's where it dumps in the orange part and gets you sick.
So that's what causes the symptoms, fever and coughing and the other things we've heard about.
Absolutely. So are you guys familiar with what would happen if you went to the hospital? Do you have questions about that?
Anybody?
Has anybody ever been to the hospital emergency room?
I have a question. No.
I have.
What happened when you went there?
I was coughing really, really, really badly, and I could barely breathe.
Oh, wow. Was that scary?
Yes, I thought I was gonna die.
And so for the rest of the people who've never been to the emergency room, do you remember kind of what they did when you first got there?
They said the doctor would be there right away, but then we had to wait like 3 hours.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry about that. That happens when a lot of people come in sick, and that's happening right now with coronavirus. But one of the things that I wanted to mention, I think people get really nervous sometimes when they're going to the doctor. They think, am I going to get a shot? Am I going to have, something done that's scary? And the most important thing that we want to know as emergency medicine doctors with the coronavirus, when somebody is experiencing difficulty breathing and that brings them into the ER, we want to know how much oxygen is getting to all of their tissues. So what you'll find when you first get in is this thing goes on your finger that doesn't hurt at all. It's called a pulse oximeter.
Oh yeah, I had that
on your finger just like this, and it'll tell the doctor how fast your heart is beating and how much oxygen is making its way from your lungs all the way down to your tissue. It's pretty cool how it works. If you look inside, there's a red light, and the way that it's measuring the oxygen is by telling how much light is going through your finger. When your blood is very oxygenated, it's much more red, so less light gets through it. Any other questions about what happens if you have to go to the emergency room?
I think that Hannah had a question.
Hannah.
I just raised my hand because I've been to the emergency room.
Okay, was it scary? But was it not so bad after you kind of got more information? I hope the doctor explained everything to you. We really try to do that.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about the other things we can do to protect ourselves. We have a video from a young boy in Sao Paulo, Brazil, with some advice on how to keep from catching the virus.
The coronavirus is not going to get to people if you fight it, if you wash your hands, if you put alcohol, if we fight it. If we don't fight it, it's going to keep spreading, and people are going to be dying because of this virus. So make sure to be hygienic.
He thinks we should be hygienic. And Dr. Correa, how can we be hygienic and be careful?
I think he made a very, very good point about washing our hands. You know, we've talked about kind of covering our coughs and our sneezes and in our elbows when we can. We've talked about wearing masks to kind of prevent the fluid particles from leaving our nose and our mouths when we cough or sneeze when we go outside. And hand washing is such a very, very important part of this. I'm not sure if you guys know how detergent works when you put something in the dishwasher or the washing machine, but it loosens up all the particles, including viral particles, and then lets us wash them off underneath the water. When you are washing your hands, it's very important to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. The way that I find easy to remember this, and yes, I do have to do this even as a doctor, I sing happy birthday in my head.
That's a good point. Rachel, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in China now. Are you starting to see the numbers abate? I mean, are you seeing fewer people coming down with the virus in China?
Yeah, definitely. I think right now the cases that are coming up are from people who are coming back to China from other places. So there haven't really been any new cases like domestically right now.
And I want to be sure to thank you, Rachel, for joining us, because I know you're 12 hours different from where we are in Washington, D.C. All of us are on different time zones. I mean, some are out in California. They are very different time zone from yours. But thanks for staying up in the middle of the night to join us for this. So what can you tell us about families in your city? Are you able to see your grandparents and other members of your family? Are you really just right in your own apartment or home?
Yeah, most of the time I'm in my home, but I've been able to see my grandparents a few times, but even when I see them, I'm still wearing a mask just to be safe. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And a lot of my family members are coming back from other places, so they're still quarantined for 2 weeks. But I've definitely been seeing more people right now than I did when I first came back a few weeks ago.
Are masks available in the stores? Are you even able to go into stores? Where do you get a mask there in China?
A lot of people are buying masks online, but you're able to go into stores now as well. They're just really expensive. I think they were rationed by the government a few like a month ago, but now you're able to buy them at a really high price.
Isabella, tell me about life in Brazil right now. Are people out on the streets? Are people shopping? Are they going to movies? Or are things locked down like they are here for many of us in this country?
So starting on last Tuesday, I think, or 2 Tuesdays ago, the governor of Sao Paulo did one of those shutdowns. Supermarkets are still open and that sort of thing, but all parks and stores and shopping malls, all that sort of thing so everything related to leisure was closed. And so we had gone to the park a few times right when I got here before all the sanctions went into place. But after about 4 or 5 days that I had been here from the US, they closed. Everything sort of started to be in lockdown. People are still going grocery shopping. A lot of people are going on walks. Like I know they're doing that a lot in New York and other cities in the US. So people are still trying to get out and exercise and get some fresh air. But there are a lot of people who aren't respecting it. People are, going out, going to see friends, not staying in, going out for non-essential things. And so it's kind of tough here because we have conflicting news or conflicting sort of advice that we're being given. Stay home, go back to normal, that kind of thing. But legally, things are shut down in Sao Paulo.
I want to say something from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of lots of other doctors out there. Thank you so incredibly much for taking this seriously and staying at home. You're really making a huge, huge difference in so many people's lives, more than you'll ever know. And another thing, one of my very good friends from growing up shared a quote with me that I thought was lovely, and it's helping me get through this. And it's that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
That will be our slogan. Tough times don't last, but we're all going to be tough. Like the little boy who said, hygiene, fight it with hygiene. And we will look forward to seeing all of you again. very soon, in just a couple of days. Well, I learned a lot today about the coronavirus. I hope you did too. And we hope you'll continue to join us. We have lots more information to share with you, and we hope you'll share with us. Check out our website at kidsspeakout.me. Stay strong, and we'll see you next time. And you guys, don't touch your face.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's all say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.